Well, happy Friday. Gosh, it's Friday. It's nearly the weekend. So we are here live on in the Case Flowery Fun group at the moment, and we're also live over on YouTube. So please comment, let us know that you're watching, let us know where you're watching in from. We have an amazing guy ready to come on and chat to you. I am so looking forward to meeting Ben. This has been organised. This is our third time lucky that we've eventually got him. But one thing or another, something has happened and we've had to cancel it. So we have him here. You're welcome to ask any questions that you want. So post away in the comments and Ben will answer all the questions towards the end of the talk. Ben is in the Flowery Fun group as well. So if you're watching on the replay, let us know that you're watching on the replay. Post the questions and I know he will go back and he will answer the questions for you. Before we start, I have the winner of the Sue Whale competition. So as you know, on Wednesday night, we had the fabulous Sue Whale on talking all about cut flowers and all about conditioning and why flowers are so expensive for Valentine's Day and all of that great stuff. So question she asked was, what family do daffodils belong to? And I was actually a little bit taken back because it wasn't what I thought it was. So the answer was the Amaryllis family. And the winner that Sue has picked out is Celine Barry Rock. So Celine, Sue picked you out. I got onto her this morning. I says, give me our winner. Give me the answer just to make sure that I had the right answer. So Celine Barry Rock, you are Sue's winner. If you can contact Sue Whale, you'll catch her here on Facebook or she's in the Flowery Fun group, or you can catch her on Instagram. It's at Sunflower Sue on Instagram. Anyway, so listen, this guy, we met Ben Cross in Birmingham, and I think it was around October. We were over in Birmingham at the British, British Florex it was. We met him, but we didn't get to see his talk. And everyone afterwards was talking about Ben's talk and how amazing it was. We're like, feck it, we never got to see it. And we really wanted to go and see it. So I said, sure, look it, let's bring Ben to Ireland. Let's get him in to talk to you guys. Then he's a fourth generation Cross from Crossland Flower Nurseries. He's an award-winning flower grower. So their farm are award-winning and their main emphasis is on sustainability. And he's going to talk an awful lot about how they grow. He's actually bringing you into the nursery. So I was just talking to him there before we come on. He's bringing you into the nursery. You can see exactly what's going on. They employ, again, back to the sustainability, they employ local people. He's an advert campaigner for British grown flowers, which, and you say, oh, well, we're here in Ireland. But at the end of the day, it's trying to replicate that thing in Ireland as what's happening in the UK. They have the same battles that we have here in Ireland. There's not enough flower farmers growing commercially. All the big commercial farmers have been swiped up by the supermarkets, and we really need more input from the government, funding put into our flower farmers to allow them expand to be able to grow commercially in Ireland. I see Jeanette's watching. Jeanette is in Lanzarote Airport. She's about to get on the plane at 11 o'clock, so she'll just about get this. Ben is also, they've won awards 2019, 2022. Like, he's just phenomenal. I'm going to bring him on and then I'm going to go off screen and I'm going to leave you to him. And as I said, post away in the questions and we will get to all the questions at the end. So here he comes. Hello, good morning.
Aloha. You really bigged me up there. I'm quite embarrassed.
Go away on that.
I'm blushing. I'm blushing.
We were raging. We didn't get to see it in Birmingham because you were on our list and there was so much to do and so much to see. And afterwards, everyone said, oh my God, did you see his talk? And I'm like, shite, we should have went. So anyway, we have you here in person. So we're absolutely delighted to have you. So look at Ben, I'm going to go off. I'm going to leave you to do. I'm here, I'm listening because I do want to see it myself. And I'll come back on in the end and we can go through any questions that's there.
Yeah, nice one. All right. Well, nice to meet everyone and even the people at Lanzarote Airport or heading off to Lanzarote. It's pretty nice and warm down here today. Dad's just going to come by with the trough, so we're still picking the flowers. Oh, and Josh is coming as well. Hang on. I don't know if you can get in the camera. Here they come. Can you say hello? There's Dad, third generation, and Josh, one of our apprentices. So they're just taking up one of the boats, one of the troughs up because we've only got Wi-Fi in one of our greenhouses. So I'll flip-flop the camera later and you can have a look around the greenhouse, but we're still harvesting the flowers. So yeah, if you don't know me, my name's Ben Cross, aka Alstroemeria Ben. on IG and Twitter, and we're going to start off talking about how we specialise in growing the Alstroemeria. So we've been going and growing since 1936, so we'll talk a little bit about the history, then we'll talk about the British Alstroemeria from the plant stage. I've got a little baby plant here for you guys to have a look at. So from the plant stage, little plant stage, to the fully grown stage. So we'll talk about the whole life cycle of the crop, and then the last sort of 10-15 minutes, as Deirdre was saying, we talk about my British Flowers Rock campaign, which has already been replicated really in America. They've got the slow flower movement. But yeah, we just talk about some of the problems with getting local flowers in Britain and Ireland as well. Please, I like to keep this as interactive as possible. So please go crazy in the chat and in the comments. Ask anything that pops into your head through the next hour. Just put into the comments and chat, and we'll go through that at the end and answer any of your queries. And yeah, let's rock and roll. So it's nice to meet everyone that's the other side of the camera. So we started going and growing in 1936 down here on the south coast of England in Sussex. Basically 1930s, there was the Great Depression, March to Jarrow, high unemployment, a lot of shipbuilders and miners out of work. Back then, we didn't have the benefit system like we have today. So back then, the government set up over 20 areas around the UK where unemployed families would go and work and farm the land. And my great-grandparents were originals, one of the original families to take the government up on this scheme called the Land Settlement Association. And yeah, they were originals, 1936. And they had a plot of land away from here because we're based in Warburton, and we'll talk about why we moved in a minute. So my great-grandparents started growing in 1936 on a market garden. My granddad then joined them after World War II. He met my nan, who was a Pompey girl from Portsmouth, just down the road, had my dad, uncles and aunties on the settlement on the LSA, and the largest LSA was down here at Siddlesham, just south of Chichester. If you don't know where Chichester is, it's near in between Pompey and Brighton, Portsmouth and Brighton. And there was 150 market gardens set up just at Siddlesham, and then say another 19 areas like that around the UK. And back then, we were very sustainable as a country. We weren't worried about ash clouds, Brexits, COVIDs, a war in another country. We weren't worried about hiking flower prices and food prices and empty shelves and empty wholesalers, because what we grew in the country is what we consumed, and what we consumed is what we grew. So we're very, very sustainable and didn't rely heavily on cheap foreign imports. So the lorries used to go up and down the lanes of Siddlesham collecting all that homegrown produce, and from there it got taken to Covent Garden, Weston, Spitalfields, the big wholesalers around the M25 around London there. And back then the supermarkets, shops used to go into the market, collect all that homegrown produce. And as I say, that's how we survived, and we did survive. We didn't rely on green beans from Kenya and strawberries from Israel and blueberries from Egypt, you know, and flowers from Ecuador and Colombia. So that was the Land Settlement Association. If you want to know more about that LSA, that government scheme, which sadly Margaret Thatcher put an end to in the 1980s because she wanted everyone on laptops and mobile phones and office work, and closed all that down. Yeah, it's now a national lottery funded historic scheme. So some of you may have heard of the Repair Shop on TV. I guess you get that in Ireland as well, but that is filmed at the Weald Downham Museum, which is a historic museum, and that's 10 minutes away just down the road from where I am. And there's going to be a physical exhibition. So one of the houses on the LSA is now in storage at the Weald Downham Museum, and there's going to be a whole physical exhibition about it. And yeah, you can just type in LSA Siddlesham or Land Settlement Association Siddlesham into search engines, Google or whatever you use. And yeah, it's all there for you. So you can learn about the history of where my roots began. So why did we then move here to Warburton? So we're in a little place called Warburton, beautiful Sussex sunshine at the moment. The vents are wide open and it's 20 odd degrees out here. So maybe that's the same as in Lanzarote. I don't know. But yes, 20 odd degrees here today in the greenhouse. Beautiful. And basically, when you were part of the LSA, this government scheme, the government would sell your produce through the scheme, a bit like as we would now see a crowdfunding program or a Kickstarter program. So they'd go, Mr. Cross, to my granddad, great grandparents, Mr. Cross, I've sold your cabbages for that much, your croissants for that much. Here's your percentage, and people getting on well with it were like, well, why don't we set up on our own? And that's really what the government wanted us to do. They gave you a bit of land, gave you a house, gave you the infrastructure to grow. And if you got on well with it, you could then set up your own business. And that's what Grandad did here in 57. So we moved to Warburton in 57, which is near Arundel, quite famous for its castle and cathedral. So about 20 minutes west of Brighton. And when we first moved here, we were growing diverse range of crops, just like on the LSA. You know, we had a menagerie of farm animals growing lots of different salad crops and veggie crops. But then the birth of the supermarkets in the 60s, 70s, no longer could you grow lots of different things and make a living from it, because all the cheap imports were coming in to the supermarkets in very high volume, very cheaply. And people got used to eating out of season. Obviously, since then, we've had your Jamies, your Jimmies, your Hugh Fernleys, and we now know that we need to buy more seasonally with food. But with flowers, we're still 30, 40 years behind in terms of labeling, product placement and seasonality within the industry, the flower industry. So yeah, no longer could Grandad grow lots of different things. So it was basically time to specialize. And the whole next hour of this talk is all about climate change, sustainability and the environment. So even though we grow on a fairly large scale, we harvest millions of stems through the course of the year. We've got a smorgasbord, a plethora of different varieties and colours, over 70 different varieties and plants of Alstroemeria. You may have heard on Gardener's World or other smaller scales, right plant, right place. Why try and grow something here in the UK that takes a lot of input to get a little bit out of it? Grandad didn't use sustainability, the word sustainability back then, but he got on very well with Alstroemeria because it just likes growing right down here between the South Downs and the beach, the ocean. So over my shoulder, 5 minutes away is the beach. And 5 minutes in front of the camera is the South Downs National Park. So it's a lovely little microclimate. So it's warmer here in the winter and it's cooler here in the summer as we get the ocean breeze as well. So perfect for growing, perfect light levels, perfect soil. And slowly but surely the whole Alstroemeria, the whole nursery came over to growing Alstroemeria. So enough of my ugly mug. We're going to flip-flop the camera, switcheroo it around and show you some of the flower beds and all that. So keep those comments and questions coming in. Hope you're enjoying it. I can't actually see the comments or questions at the moment. So just keep filling the comment section up with questions and comments. Keep it as interactive as we can. So, right, I'm just going to flip-flop this around. Settings, camera, and back camera. So, you should be just seeing the image now of the nursery. So this is just one of the little greenhouses that we've got the Wi-Fi in. The path that we've been walking up and down, this path used to be outside and there used to be wooden greenhouses to the left and wooden greenhouses to the right. You can still see Grandad's old taps that used to feed off a hose into those old greenhouses. We had the big storm of 87 that blew away all the wooden greenhouses. So the greenhouse we're in at the moment was finished being built in 88, and one of my first memories as a 5-year-old was in here picking up all the broken glass with Grandad in a bucket. I mean, who would let their grandkids do that? But it's farm life, you know, you're straight into it as soon as you're born, you know. So to give you some idea of scale, the flower beds are 1 meter wide, 30 meters long, and we've got hundreds and hundreds of these flower beds all around the nursery in these greenhouses. If we go down to the bottom of the flower bed, you can see we've got a pipe here. So we've basically got a flow and return. So we've got a heating pipe that pumps hot water around the flower bed. So whenever you're heating anything on a large scale or a smaller scale, you want heat to rise up through whatever you're growing. So especially this time of year, you get a lot of damp and condensation in greenhouses, and you can get grey mold, botrytis, and all sorts of things, and not a very growy atmosphere. But with a nice dry heat down by the soil, you're keeping the roots nice and snug and cozy through the winter. Then as that heat radiates off that pipe work, like your radiators in your home, it's going to clean off all the condensation and dampness. So we've got nice dry growth coming on at the moment. Then you can see this grey pipe here, just above the soil that runs the whole length of the bed. That's our low-level irrigation. Then we've obviously got our crop supports and our netting, keeping all the plant material tucked in and trained into the bed. And then over the top, we've also got overhead spray line system as well. And we'll talk about later why we water from above and from below. But that's a basic setup of a flower bed and replicate that hundreds of times. That's what we've got going on, basically. There's 135 plants to a bed. So there's 135 of these baby plants that we put into one of these flower beds. But a nice sustainability point is that a lot of our plants are over 30, 40 years old, still producing good saleable stems for you guys. So this is Whistler, a beautiful white variety that's been in for nearly 10 years now, still producing lovely, thick as you like thumb stems, loads of buds on a pedestal, and yeah, beautiful. But yeah, 135 of these go into a bed. It's over £2,500 to replant a bed, so very specialist. And then every year that these roots are in our ground, we have to pay a license as well. So very specialist, very expensive, and it would be illegal for me to divide these plants up and sell them, and so on and so on. So it's just the flowers that we sell only, not the plants. So it's very specialist, and all has to be grown under license here in the UK. So not to be taken for granted. Here's the freshly picked flowers. Jeanette's camera shy, so we won't show her. But yeah, these are all the... Oh, slow down. Say hello, Josh. Hello. Here's Connor, one of our apprentices as well. Hang on, you're going too quick. There's Pinkwell, beautiful. There's Josh, look at him, nice and happy. Oh, he's not happy. No. There you go. So freshly picked. So yeah, they're the little plants basically. And we don't use oil anymore to heat the water in those pipes. We use locally sourced wood that come in these pellet form. We literally just had a delivery today, but we used to burn about 100 tons of these, and we've only burnt about 30 tons of these this winter. It's been so mild down here on the south coast. But the sustainability points, Alstroemeria is known as a cool crop. So by a cool crop, we mean it looks cool in your arrangements and bouquets and vases. But by a cool crop, we mean it doesn't actually take a lot of heat. So the optimum temperature is only about 10 degrees through a winter's night. That's all it needs. If you're growing poinsettias, lilies, tulips, other types of crop under glass, you need about 20 degrees at night. So not very sustainable, but using locally sourced wood to heat the water in those pipes, we get to 10 degrees pretty easy. So it's a cool crop. We're not always replanting, and it's also known as a dry crop. So what do you think I mean by a dry crop? That's right, we're not draining the River Arun or lakes or oceans around us. Like in Kenya, Lake Navasha, it's getting shallower, more polluted, less fish stocks as the big flower-owned farms, supermarket-owned farms get bigger and bigger around it. So we only water for 20 minutes once a month in the winter, 20 minutes once every 2 weeks in spring and autumn, and 20 minutes once a week to 10 days in the summer. So yeah, not a lot of heat, not a lot of water. And as I say, the plants, if we know what varieties cope best with the British weather, so they stay in the ground for a long time as well. I'm going to try and flip-flop the camera back over. Here we go. There you go. So yeah, hopefully it's all making sense. A cool crop, a dry crop, nice and sustainable. We've got some nice red buds. Red has been obviously quite popular with V-Day, Valentine's Day coming up. But the trend has mainly been white. Everyone wants white for Christmas, white for Valentine's. And then obviously in the summer, a lot of white for weddings and things like that. So we sort of do our market research. We have several flower beds that have got 20 or 30 varieties in, so we've got trial beds as well. You can get hundreds of different types of Alstroemeria, hundreds of varieties around the world, but say we only grow ones that cope best with the British weather, because you might at home as a florist go, oh, we love that colour, can you grow that? But if it doesn't like our weather, we can't grow it. So we only grow what's productive and copes best with the British weather down here in Sussex on the south coast. But we've got a full colour range all year round, so the only colours we don't do are blue and black, but we've got, like, you know, purples, pinks, cerises, whites, creams, oranges, reds, yellows, the whole spectrum really. This is champagne, a beautiful cream variety. So we'll talk about the mature plants and what we have to do on them. Oh look, there's some just down here. There's one in the path. Look, it was a bit of a bent stem, but there you go. Oh, there you, can you see that? There you go. It's Tropicana, one of our peachy orange ones. And yeah, we got loads going. Oh, they've missed another. Oh, it's this time of year with the the poor light levels. We do get some nice buds still. So there you go. Oh, it's really tricky, this. There you go. So guess what that variety is called? Lemon, because it's a nice lemony yellow. So we don't just whack those little baby dudes, the little plants in the ground. They grow, and it's really easy. There's a lot of crop maintenance that we have to do on the mature plants. So I'm going to flip-flop the camera again and show you the 4 types of crop maintenance that we have to do on a daily basis, some more than others, depending on the time of year. So I'm just going to double check the comments, see if you can still all hear me and everything.
All good. Yeah. All good. Everything's brilliant. There's quite a few questions, but will we wait the end, or do you want to answer them now?
If there's any questions about the history or planting, otherwise we'll sort of do it. We're doing it in sort of stages.
Somebody's asking, how long does it take to grow from a plant to be ready to cut?
Yes, so you know that little baby plant I showed you guys. We plant that in the summertime. So you might be thinking, Ben, why do you do all your planting in the summer? Why not before the spring? Well, Alstroemeria, it's not a one-hit wonder. It's not a seed or a bulb that you put in the ground, it grows, you cut it. Next year, you put another seed or another bulb in the ground. All of the flower beds behind me here, under the soil, it's a maze of rhizomes, tubers, and root systems. It's a root-based system. And if you put those roots in the ground now, so February, early March, early spring, they're going to grow too rapidly, and you come to pick a flower and the whole root would come out of the ground. So to get good root establishment, you want to plant them in August. So it's got all of the autumn, all of the winter, all of the beautiful early spring that we're having now. So we start harvesting hundreds of stems off that a day in the summer and spring, and we're not pulling up chunks of roots. So we plant in August, plant that in August. Come November, the plant will be taller than me, over 6 foot tall. And
that's actually a question, Ben, is what's the tallest they grow?
So yeah, so it takes about 2 or 3 months from August to November to get the little dude to a big monstrous dude, and we start harvesting a little bit over the winter, and then that'll be in the ground for 30-40 years, so longer than I'm going to be kicking about. And then you'll notice up above me here, in all of the greenhouses, we don't have any artificial sodium or LED lighting in the greenhouse structure up above me. So that's a good thing, because we're not causing any light pollution, so the bats and the birds aren't getting sketched out and weirded out at night. We're not disturbing nature, and obviously local residents, there's not an orange glow coming from Crosslands, and there's no light pollution. So you go to somewhere like Kent in the UK, where they grow all the tomatoes, and there's a blackout blind on your Airbnb because it's all fake lighting. So apart from putting in a little bit of heat, we grow our crop very naturally. So in the winter, like most plants, they search for the lights. They get really tall in the winter. So some of the varieties here, they're 8-9 foot tall through the depths of winter. And actually for local florists, that's a really good thing. It's a bit like if you go to your local fishmonger or your local butcher, you can get different, more sustainable, cheaper cuts of meat and different cuts of meat that a supermarket would throw out. So a local florist, they can come here and they can go, oh, Ben, can I have a 6-7 foot stem? And I'll put that with some bamboo in an entrance to a library or a big marquee or a hallway. So again, unlike going to supermarkets and wholesalers where the flowers have to be cut at a certain length to fit inside an aeroplane or a shipping container, if you've got a local grower, especially through the winter, their plants will be growing nice and tall and strong, so you can get these weird and wacky, wonderful 5, 6, 7 foot tall stems that you can be more creative with as a florist. So again, really important to support local growers, because you can get those different stem lengths than you wouldn't otherwise in a wholesaler that have to go in a box and a plane and a boat and thing. So yeah, they get pretty tall. I'll just go
Natalie
over.
wants to know, do you cut the flower stem at the base and leave the bulb in?
So we're just going to get on to how we look after the plants. So
okay, I'm going to leave it be. We'll come back with the other questions.
I'm just going to show you. So there you go. There you go. So this is in the ground, and it's 7 foot tall or 6 foot tall. The camera's really weird on this app. Oh, there you go. I'll try and there you go. So it's quite tall anyway. So right now we get into how we look after the plants. They're all having a nice tea break over there. Coffee. I don't drink tea or coffee. I'm hyper enough. So let's try and find some. So we'll go back to this champagne, this nice cream. I'm going to switcheroo the camera. So here we go. Bear with me. How do we do this? Bear with me, guys. Settings, camera. Got it. Beautiful. Okay. So never ever call Alstroemeria a cut flower again in your life, because it isn't a cut flower, it's a hand-picked flower. So this is obviously on the root, on the rhizome, growing out of the soil. I'm just going to get my hand underneath the pedestal here, and I'm just going to give it a pull and a tug, and out it comes. Beautiful. Again, champagne. It looks like a brown bud, but you can see a slit of cream. It comes out as a beautiful cream, this one, hence it's called champagne. Good for weddings, this one. Just get your hand under there, give it a pull, and out she comes. So there you go. There's 2 stems of champagne picked. There you go. So that's 2 stems out of so many million that we're going to pick this year, or have picked this year. So there you go. So actually harvesting the crop, picking the flowers, here you go, you get a bit more of the cream inside there. But actually picking the flowers is one part of the crop maintenance. So why do we pick it and don't cut it? Well, if you can imagine, my fist is the root under the soil, and you've cut your stems, you're left with all these old cuttings that come off the root. They go brown, rot, decay, and also they inhibit and stop further growth. Whereas if you pick those stems, you're tidying up the surface of that rhizome, like your carpet in your lounge at home. You're hoovering it up, keeping it nice and tidy. You're going to have a healthier, stronger root, and obviously you're going to stimulate more growth as well. So that's why you want to pick your Alstroemeria and never cut it. So never call it a cut flower, because it isn't. It's a hand-picked flower. So that's one thing. I've got a bit more Tropicana in there. There you go. Beautiful. So there you go. That's what that one looks like. So again, all we're going to do, going to get our hand in there and literally pick out the flower, just like that. There you go. Also, you can see what happens here. We've got this netting here because we want to keep them tucked and trained into the bed. So we call this tucking in, just before the spring and just before the autumn, when they're coming back from the winter and the summer stresses. We get a lot of new growth like this, and this new growth just needs to be tucked back in to the netting like that, because we don't want staff walking down here and trampling on all the wonky bendy stems that might be coming out into the path and things like that. So that's called tucking in. Also, through the winter, we get lovely foliage like this, but actual no sign of any bud because of the poor light level. The buds abort, go brown, or don't develop. And all of this needs to be thinned out and pulled out and taken out of the bed to allow the little shoots that are further down the best chance of getting taller and having buds on. But lovely stem, lovely foliage. What are we throwing away here, guys? Yeah, we throw away tons and tons of foliage a winter. So again, instead of importing foliage from around the world or getting it from wholesalers, or even foraging in hedgerows and woodlands and forests and disturbing nature, if you've got a local grower that's throwing away tons of foliage a week in the winter because of the poor light levels, then again, use your local grower, because all this is going to be doing is going to be going and being chucked away on the floor and being taken out of the greenhouse. So again, try and use the foliage instead of growers throwing it away. It's all about that war on waste and reducing the waste stream of the flower industry. So we've talked about harvesting, the picking of it. We've talked about tucking in. We've talked about the thinning of it, and also a lovely, beautiful job down here. We've got some stingers, some nettles. We don't use any chemicals for our weeds. It's just picking out the root of the weed and leaving it to rot on top of the soil, and that gives us nice free fertilizer, because especially stinging nettles, they're very high in potassium and iron and all that good stuff. So again, if you get to the base of the stinging nettle, you don't need to wear any gloves as well. So yeah, this is weeding, obviously. So you just leave the weed to rot on top of the soil, and all the goodness will rot back into the soil, and it will inhibit and stop further weeds from growing, because you've obviously got this weed growing on top of it. Dying, wilting on top of it. So I'll just flip the camera around again. So as I say, they're the 4 the 4 types of crop maintenance that we do on a daily basis, some more than others, depending on time of year. So more harvesting in spring and autumn, because people think, oh, summer sun, flowers, plants, they love it. No, I'm just here in board shorts in the summer. It's about 40 odd degree air temperature, 30 odd degree soil temperature. So what do our roots want to do? They want to chill out, go on holiday to Lanzarote, have a barbecue, Pimm's o'clock and all that. So they go into a period of dormancy, basically, and we harvest more than they can regenerate. So summer and winter production is lower than spring and autumn. So spring and autumn's when we get most of our harvest. And as I say, just before the spring and just before the autumn's when we get that grow back, that new growth. That's where we do all that tucking in, putting it back into the wire meshes. More weeding in the summer, because as you notice through the winter, the Alstroemeria is like a weed. It's taking up all available soil space, so the sun actually doesn't penetrate the soil much. So most of our weeding's done in the summer. And more thinning out of the blind growth, more of that foliage in the winter because of the poor light levels. So they're the 4 types of crop maintenance that we do. So it's not all about just whacking those little plants in the ground and watering them. So Deirdre, did you want to come back on if there's any more questions about that?
Yes, there is. The questions are rolling in now, Ben.
Oh, keep it going, guys. I love it. It keeps it more interactive. It's so difficult just talking to your phone. So
absolutely. We're so used to talking to the phone. A Facebook user, I can't see their name, they're saying very interesting. They want to get the same for their garden. What sort would be the best for the Shropshire area? Shropshire's absolutely, that's the UK.
Yeah, so that's UK. Yeah. So the prettier coloured garden varieties tend to be the dwarf ones, so they're just grow in pots. But if you want taller varieties, like Indian Summer, Rock and Roll, which is a variegated leafed one, they're very prevalent in people's gardens in the UK, and you can put those in a border and they'll last to about -5, -6, and if the frost gets them, you can just pick off the frosted growth and the root will shoot up and spurt out some new stems. So yeah, so you can get those. But remember, the ones I've got are all commercial varieties. They're bred for their height, their vase life, their colour. They're bred for the cut flower trade for you guys, for the florist. But if you want to grow them in your gardens, the best way is literally to grow them in pots, because then you can move them into a conservatory, into your home for the winter, and have them as a house plant, and then bring them out into the garden late spring all through the summer, and they'll keep on blooming. If you keep picking them, they'll keep on flowering. So
wow. Tea and Time on YouTube says, do you have to protect them over the winter? I've lost quite a few by not doing so. I pulled loads from one which was in a pot in the garden, and the ones died in the winter. Exactly what you're saying there.
Alstroemeria is classed as a protected ornamental. So you can see that we're growing in a greenhouse. It wants to be protected. If you don't have a greenhouse like this, if you've got a small greenhouse, a conservatory, grow them in there. And if you're growing them outside, they don't want to be in a northeasterly or a southwesterly. They don't want to be in a prevailing wind. So keep them in a sheltered area. Or if you've got a polytunnel, whack them in there, grow them in there. They're classed as a protected ornamental. So they want to be protected. And if you've got a sea breeze running on your crop, they're going to grow a lot shorter. If I left my greenhouse door open and a cold breeze was coming in, the plants near the door would be shorter and they'd get taller and taller as they move away from the door. So protected ornamental.
Somebody was asking, does any particular variety last longer as a cut flower, or are they generally all the same? And what is the longevity as a cut flower?
So I have them in the house for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, we would sort of
yeah,
say the same,
and I just, like the one I just found, the shorty one down on the floor there, and the ones low in the bed, I'll just pick those and whack them in a little vase, and they'll be indoors for 3-4 weeks. In the summer, obviously 2 weeks because it's warmer.
Yeah.
But Alstroe
is actually one of the flowers we sent out on our Module 1 students, and it's a flower that a lot of the students have never seen before. So, and they're always amazed because when they work with it, it'd be quite tight. And we're like, do not give it away. Wait, let it open. Wait till you see when it blooms. Like, that's beautiful, that colour.
Yeah. So the big difference between our Alstroemeria is the stage that we harvest the crop. So the imported Alstroemeria is harvested too tight in bud. And if you go like strawberry picking, or you're growing homegrown tomatoes, do you want those green, yellowy bits of fruit, or do you want those nice red, ripe bits of fruit? And exactly the same with flowers. imported Alstroemeria is always picked too tight, usually. A bit like lilies and roses. Roses stay tight in bud, have no scent, doused in chemicals, and they just die. Big lilies stay like big brown bananas. They never open up properly. Alstroemeria in supermarkets, papery, weird looking things. Well, yeah, it's because they're 4 or 5 weeks old and they've been harvested too tight in bud. So we wait until our buds, as you could see back then, are nice and elongated, beefy, full of juice and beans and all that, and they'll produce nice, big, vibrant, colourful buds. So our flowers will produce, bigger, more vibrant flower heads than the imported ones, because not only are they fresher, but they're harvested at the correct ripe bud stage. Basically, wholesalers, supermarkets, if you can fit more of the same thing into the same space, you make more money. They don't care about the quality of flower when you put it in your arrangement. So, but we do. So we want them to let them ripen.
As well, Ben, they're in the UK. Do you supply all of the UK or just certain parts, or if they want to buy from you?
So we supply obviously all of England, Wales, and Scotland, apart from the way tip of Scotland. So yeah, we don't unfortunately deliver to Ireland because it would take. It would it would take 2 or 3 days from it being picked to get to your florist. So it will be dead by then. But yeah, we do a next day delivery service. So we pick it, we pack it, it goes overnight, and it's with a farm shop, a restaurant, cafe, a florist, member of the public the next day. We've basically had to diversify who we supply to survive. So we supply anyone that cares about planet Earth. We've only got one of them left.
And anybody that does want to contact Ben, his handle is on the screen. On Instagram, on Twitter, he's Alstroemeria Ben. On Facebook, he's Crossland Flower Nurseries.
Crossland's Flower Nursery on Facebook, and Alstroemeria Ben on IG and Twitter.
Somebody's saying, do you deliver to Northern Ireland? Probably not.
No, we don't go overseas because it takes too long and it's just way crazy expensive. I tried to get flowers like the Isle of Wight, and it was like 20-30 quid.
And I think you're reducing the quality, so it's not really what you're about.
You don't want 2-3 day old flowers.
No.
I mean, florists, they love it when there's a bit of dirt on the bottom of the stem, and they open the box and it just smells fresh because they're not doused in any preservatives and chemicals and all that. It's
how many varieties are there, Ben? How many colours? Not varieties, but how many colours of Alstro is there? Again, these are
any colour you can think of apart from blue and black.
Okay, right.
Yeah, literally any colour. Yeah.
Somebody said, do you bump up production for the likes of Valentine's Day, and how do you bump it up?
No. Within the UK, we are restricted by our greenhouse space. So what I've got is what I've got. I can't just magically build millions of pounds worth of greenhouse and have another 1,000 acres for Christmas, Valentine's, Mother's Day and Easter. So we just sell out as quick as within a second. It's as going back to the start of the talk, we'll get into it in a bit. We'll talk about the flower industry as a whole, but we don't get any government grants. We don't get any government support. You may have heard of fair trade. Well, our government will send infrastructure and money to other countries to grow stuff that comes all the way back here, and then those boats and planes go back empty. So half the carbon footprint of your flowers is empty air, is empty space. So unfortunately, we're a forgotten industry, not like pig farming, sheep farming, potatoes, mushrooms. There's no one in government, no one in NFU, no one in DEFRA, no one at the top helping us. So I'd love to grow more. I'd love to grow more and say to you guys, we can deliver to Ireland, we can do more at Valentine's Day, but we are at a strain because I have seen from your Instagram, like you do help other farmers, like flower farmers as well. I've seen you giving talks and stuff like that. So hopefully at some stage, like some of the flower, because we would have flower farmers following us here, that within the flower farming industry, is to increase the knowledge and the lobbying, I suppose, lobbying to the government for more funding and for supports for commercial growing. Yeah, that's what my British Flowers Rock campaign and message is all about. But at the moment, no one upstairs is listening. So a little flower grower in a little village in Sussex can say British flowers rock. If Boris Johnson says stay at home, we stay at home. Whereas my message is weighty, but it's not getting anywhere fast. So obviously I did marine biology from 2000 to 2011. I came back here full time in 2011. From 2011 to 2014, I tried to get help from government. So I spoke to the local MP, DEFRA, NFU, governments, Flowers from the Farm, other industry people, and nothing was happening, and no one was helping each other. So in 2014, I decided to stop wasting my time trying to get help, and just started the British Flowers Rock thing myself. And
but you know what I think with this, like, I think you might say nobody is listening, but I think it's like not everybody that's watching here today are probably florists. So it's educating the public. And I think that's the key, is to educate the public to be aware of what they're buying, be it flowers, be it fruit, be it anything. I think it's that awareness.
Exactly. So that's all I aim to do. It's sort of a one-man band. It's not funded. It's all off my own back. But I've got over 70 British Flower Rock talks this year to do.
Wow.
You're one of them. But yeah, so I've done over 600 talks since 2014 now. Which is mental, isn't it? So it proves that the frustrating thing is people, they love the content, they like to learn about it, but the frustration is that no one at the top in government wants to learn about it or do anything about it. I know they've got a lot on their plate, but times are ticking, so over 90% of flowers in the UK are now imported. And when we talk about that, we're talking about cafes and restaurants that might have a locally sourced food menu, but where are those flowers come from that are on your table? Or farm shops, letterbox companies, Arena, Serenata, Freddie's Flowers, Wild and Bloom, Bloom and Wild, Arena, Funky Pigeon, Moon Pig, all those people, gas station flowers, florists, supermarkets. So we're not just talking soup, we're just talking in your day-to-day life. When you're out and about, you might go to the hairdresser, they might have a vase of flowers on the reception desk. There's over 90% chance that they've been flown in and not grown, and obviously we want to be using homegrown and not flown. So that's where we are with it. It's a tricky situation, and one that we need proper help with and support. Yeah
Absolutely. Okay, I think we've one of the other ones was the best way to condition Alstroe, but I think you're going to cover that shortly, are you?
Well, we can do that right here. I mean, what you want to do, I don't know if you can see this. I find this camera really weird, but there you go. It's hard to get my camera focused. I'm used to like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I think. But I'm enjoying this format. It's quite cool. So all the leaf. So you can leave the leaves round the buds as a bit of foliage. I've got a couple of florists that actually take all the leaf off, and they have them at the top of the design, and they like to see them, they call dancing above the other flowers like little daisies. So sometimes people strip all the leaves off, but I like to leave the ones on the top on. But yeah, if you strip all of the lower leaves and mid leaves off, you basically put more energy into the flower head. So you want to just strip off as many leaves as you fancy. Once the leaves start going yellow, just take them off and the flowers will keep on blooming away. Like most flowers, give them fresh water every 2 or 3 days. And when you give them that fresh water, just snip off the end of the stem, because bacteria builds up and it can't suck up that fresh water. So snip a bit off the end of the stem, allow it to suck up that fresh water. Not on a radiator, not near hot electrical equipment, not near a window, blinding sunlight, just somewhere nice and cool, and they'll chug on for 2 or 3 weeks. Like
and what about flower food? Do you recommend flower food, or
no? So that's the big difference again. So I'll show you our 2 different grades that we do. So we do a posy grade, which is my version of the wonky veg, and we do our premium grade. So I'm going to flip-flop the old didgeridoo here. I've done it again. More settings, camera, change the camera. Right, so pick up a bunch of flowers in a supermarket. What have they attached to the bunch of flowers down here?
Elastic bands.
Well, what's usually on here, the bottom of the stem, there's usually a plastic bit of sellotape with a plastic flower food sachet with loads of man-made gunk and junk and rubbish inside the sachet that you don't even need with these bad boys. Just put them in fresh water. I actually did a test in my conservatory. I had a stem of each variety in one vase. with flower food in, another vase without flower food in, and actually the one without flower food lasted a couple of days longer. It was negligible. So the thing about buying my flowers is they come package free. So this is in a recyclable, reusable sleeve, but a lot of florists that live locally and they collect the raw product, so they're chemically free, they're package free, no plastic sellotape or elastic band or plastic flower food sachet or man-made junk and rubbish inside the sachet. They are getting the raw product, because the best way to buy anything is buy it packaged chemically free, and that's what again local florists they do. So and this is our wonky veg posy grade. So there's 8 to 10 stems in a bunch, and it's 60 centimeters tall. And at the end of the day, it's a nice bunch of flowers that you can sell outside your shop and undercut Mr. Tesco or a supermarket next door. Also, if you're doing floral crowns, buttonholes, jam jars, hand ties, bridal stuff for bridesmaids, you know, little flower girls, then these are absolutely fine as a bunch of flowers. But all of these stems would get rejected by a supermarket or by a wholesaler because they don't weigh 22.1 grams each. Some of them are a bit kinky, a bit gnarly, and a bit bent. But at the end of the day, just like that parsnip family on Hugh Fernie's War on Waste, these are still going to get used. I've put as much love, energy, fertilizer, and energy into growing these as I have the premium grade. So that's the posy grade, 8 to 10 stems, 60 centimeters tall. And as I say, a lot of farm shops sell these, florists sell these outside their shop just as a bunch of British blooms. And then this is our premium grade. This is gold, a lovely gold variety. And these are 90 centimeter chunky long stems. And this is for proper floristry and pedestal work and big arrangements and bouquets. So if someone came into your shop and said, right, there's 40, 50 quid, make me up a nice bouquet, you'd shove these stems in, because there's more buds to a stem and they're nice and chunky and long. So that's our premium grade and our posy grade. And look, there's not too much difference between them. Yeah, so there's 8 to 10 stems in the posy, 60 centimeters, and 5 chunky stems, 90 centimeters in the premium. To trade, they're £2 to florists, and they're £1.50 to florists. Wow. So and that's what they look like when they're packaged up.
You're probably paying £1.50 a stem from Holland at the moment.
Yeah, but that's probably maybe for these thicker stems or something. But yeah, I mean, but it's proving that buying British can save the planet and your pennies if you're going direct to the grower. And as I say, Holland and supermarkets, you won't even find these in there because they discard these before they even get to the supermarket door. You know, this is the posy grade, which is a nice bunch of flowers to use. You know,
absolutely.
I'm going to flip-flop the camera back. Round.
Somebody said, Ben, is it true that Alstroemeria leaves grow upside down?
I literally just did a video yesterday or the day before. Basically, every flower has a meaning, and the meaning of Alstroemeria is long-lasting friendship. And I always thought it was long-lasting friendship. That was the meaning of it, because it lasts forever. But no. The leaves come out of the stem upside down, they twist and then right themselves. And it's because of that twist, a bit like they say the roller coaster of life. So your devoted friends, you go through the ups and downs with all your best mates. That is where it gets its meaning from. Alstroemeria gets the long-lasting friendship meaning from the leaves and not for the long-lasting blooms. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Always learning.
It's funny because we would have always, and I didn't know that, but we would have always said to the students, if they were taking the leaves off the top, is to pull them up rather than pulling them down, because when you pull them down, they would break the stem as such. But when you pull them up, they come off easier. And that's probably...
I run my hand down the stem.
No, but I'm talking up around the head, up around the flowers.
Yes.
If you were taking the leaves off, to pull up rather than pull down.
Yeah, because... just... anyway really is, but yeah, that's probably the best way to pull up. But yeah, that the leaves, they have a twist in them.
That's mad.
I think botanists use the word, I've put it on Instagram, my last post, it tells you all about the leaves anyway. That's how geeky we get here. Sad, isn't it?
Somebody's saying lucky florists who live close by. Like I have to say, like even looking at your posy bunches, I'm so jealous that we don't have that opportunity. Like I know there is an Alstroemeria guy who grows Alstroemeria here in Ireland, But he's been around, like when we would have had a flower shop 20 years ago, we would have bought from him. And he doesn't take on any new customers. He only deals with his old flowers for years.
He must be quite smaller scale, then, I guess. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. You know, over 90% imported, because in 40 odd years in my lifetime, it used to be 90% British.
Yeah.
90% British grown, but now it's 90% imported.
Yeah.
Because us growers have been treated so badly by supermarkets and wholesalers. You know, Grandad used to get £1.95 a bunch in the 50s and 60s at Covent Garden. Now we don't even supply Covent Garden because they give me 50p a bunch, and my costs have gone up 600%. You know, fertilizer, packaging, transport, just like your costs at home, your electric. It's all gone up 600-800%, and it's unsustainable. So that's why we have diversified who we supply to survive. We've had to supply the public, florists, farm shops, cafes, restaurants. We even supply hairdressers that have eco-friendly hair products, the paraben free, and they have the minimum order in their hairdresser on display, you know. So we just supply people that care about the planet, give us a fair deal and a fair price so we can continue. But that's why we've lost our growers, because what next generation is going to want to take on a failing, dilapidated greenhouse of a business? So as I say, we get no support, no government help, and treated badly by supermarkets and wholesalers. That's the problem. You know, 40 years ago, florists between Brighton and Southampton along the south coast here, they used to get all their flowers from the growers. They used to wake up 6 a.m. They used to get Alstroemeria from us, stocks, lilies, roses were grown here. Loads of roses were grown here. Loads of flowers were all grown along the south coast. And now it's all horrible red brick housing estates where the farmers sold their land because they had no future. Future. So it's a real shame. And there's not many people, there's not many people like me left at all, you know. So it's a real shame. So we've got to look after the ones that we've got. And, try and buy British where you can, because I know it's difficult. What do you think's the number one question I get asked on a daily basis from other florists? Do you supply the public? Well, no, I do. I have to supply the public to survive. But the number one question I get asked is, do you know any other growers, Ben? You know, people are crying out for other growers, but no,
like us here,
because they've been killed off with the cheap foreign imports, because we weren't looked after. Last
year, the Irish flower farmers got together, and they have, like British Flower Day, we now have Irish Flower Week, I think it is. So they asked us, would we help and promote it, which we did, and like they sent us up all the flowers, so all the flowers from the farms, for us to do sustainable arrangements, and we had a whole week, which was amazing. It was. And it actually had educated us as well. But the hardest part, so we said, right, give us a list of all those that would supply, and none of them did. Like out of probably 100, maybe 20 of them were supplying outside of themselves.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's just they've not been treated fairly enough. And the other thing is things like Gardener's World, the Daily Telegraph, all that. They'll say how amazing it is. So they'll get a smaller grower to say that they're growing lots of flowers and things. But the reality is what I've told you in the last hour. It's just not good enough. You know, if you keep telling the British public that things are all okay, then they're going to think it's all okay. And it's wrong, because we're lying. We should be keeping it real and telling it how it is. And that's what I do. I just keep it real, tell it how it is, and not trying and blind anyone, because it's not right. So but yeah, that's what the British Flowers Rock message is, really, is just doing stuff like I've done with you, meeting beautiful people like you that understand and
want to see change. Like we want to see change.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, I loved your point about the foliage, like that if you had got a local grower, to go to them and buy the foliage, or even take the foliage off them if they give it to you, whatever, that they're going to be dumping anyway. Like that's, you know, it's a no-brainer.
Well, say the the foliage, the posy grade, you know, the wonky stems, all of that. It's all lowering the war on waste and the waste stream. Like my little wholesaler in Brighton, which I do supply because they're only 20 minutes away, and through the campaign and messaging, the people of Brighton demand my flowers. So they didn't want to know me, the wholesaler, but then because I kept doing all my talks around Brighton, everyone was like, well, there's a local wholesaler. Why don't they have yours? I said, well, they can buy in the foreign cheap, sell it for high, and make more money. That's what they are. They're money-making exercise, supermarkets and wholesalers. If they can buy in something for 0.011p cheaper from Ecuador, Cambodia, Colombia, Kenya, they will, because then they can bump up the price and make a bigger margin. That's what it's about. But no, they do support me, my local wholesaler now.
And you know, and it's up to the florist then to ask for in the wholesalers, can I get Alstroemeria, like Crossland?
Yes, because at the moment the my local wholesaler doesn't have British tulips, so tulips are in season, but they don't have them because they don't buy them, because they can get them from Holland at 4p something cheaper a stem, because obviously the Holland, they get help. So in Holland, they get to renew their greenhouses every 2 or 3 years. They get to modernize. I mean, this one's been here since '88. We've got some here from the '60s. You know, in Holland, they get the government help them a huge amount. And we used to get help with the LSA and going back to the start of the talk, but we get no help in modernizing the greenhouses or anything anymore. And to give you some idea, to build like a quarter of an acre of a greenhouse like I've got secondhand is £250,000.
Wow.
And that's without all the heating pipes, the plant material. You're talking best part of £500,000 just to do a quarter of an acre of professionally grown Alstroemeria. And it's insane.
And it's probably years before you'll get a decent return.
Well, like if you spent that, when would be the first stem you pick for 1p profit? Exactly. So, but in Holland, they get government grants, they get help, and so does Kenya, Colombia, and Ecuador, because our government, through fair trade, gives them the plants, they give them the transports free. You know, it costs more to get my flowers from Brighton to London than it does from flowers to go from Kenya into Holland, through the auctions in Holland, over to Great Yarmouth, to a middleman, to a pack house, to a warehouse, in a letterbox, in a courier to someone's house. It's mental, isn't it? But that's fair trade. There's no fair trade for UK or Ireland.
No, or Ireland. Yeah, somebody's saying there's a huge upsurge in interest in growing UK flowers. I do think, and I think the likes of you, Ben, and so many people, and so many more florists are more verbalizing it and verbalizing the need for it. That
one real quick thing. We're nearly running out of time. We've got to do questions. We don't use any pesticides or insecticides, so it's all about biocontrol. So we use Encarsia, which come on these cards. Encarsia, they're like a parasitic wasp, and they kill off the whitefly. So you're using biology to kill off biology you don't want. Also, we use spider mite killers called Phytocelis. So these are another type of mite. We sprinkle these over the red spider mite, and they feast and gorge themselves on the spider mite. So basically, we're introducing biology into the greenhouses to combat the pests and things that we don't want hanging about. So I thought I'd just quickly get that in there, that after the flowers are harvested, we don't spray any preservatives, no chemicals, no pesticides, insecticides, nothing like that. It's raw products. So people say, Ben, do your Alstroemeria have any scent? Well, actually, they do. They just smell nice and fresh. That's why roses sometimes have no scent, because they're doused in too many chemicals. So they don't have that nice smell of roses like it does in your nan's garden, you know. So, we're all about pesticide, insecticide free, and using that biocontrol. So I thought I'd get that in there. And happy to do any more questions or comments for the last.
Let me see. Well, Jeanette, the other half of me, is saying she's really enjoyed the chat, Deirdre and Ben. She's off to catch her plane. She's actually on her way home. She is. Facebook user, totally agree. Flowers are a lot more conscientious about using British flowers. I think it's just finding the growers and the transport ends that tends to be the main sticking thing. So, and I think, you know, it is the likes of these talks, and we're actually working ourselves on a sustainable program. And probably we'll be getting the likes of you and other people in to do little talks in it, that it's, you know, for florists that are already in the industry and I suppose educating them to, it's not going to be easier to use non-foam ways, but it's adapting to more sustainable ways of doing things.
That's the thing, really. NAFAS, RHS, they need to do more, because NAFAS, they bang on about going floral foam free, which is absolutely correct. I've got nothing wrong with that. But that's like a restaurant going, right, get out all of the Italian crockery and plates. We're going to get in local plates, and we're going to eat off bits of wood and sustainable stuff, but our food is still going to be imported from Italy and France. So NAFAS need to get on board, and they need to be promoting British local blooms in line with going floral foam free. Because you could go floral foam free, stick in a bird of paradise, and you've wasted loads of carbon footprint anyway. So
this is
NAFAS and RHS,
the balance. It is, and
it's
you know
balance,
what?
but they both have to be talked about as the same importance.
That's
and
the same thing.
Frustrates me that going floral foam free is promoted more than actually the product you're handling. And using. It's like a restaurant, as I say, getting out all their foreign unsustainable cutlery and what they eat with, but their food is still heavily imported. It in my brain doesn't work like that. You've got to have one hand and the other hand working together. Otherwise things are going to get out of skew. You know, it's got to be heavily looked at. And I do a lot of talks for the WI Women's Institute and things like that, and they're good. But as I say, the RHS and NAFAS need to get on board with having people like me doing talks and stuff. So I've got my first proper NAFAS event at Gloucester Cathedral. They're doing a big weekend in Gloucester Cathedral, so they're getting me there to do that. So, you know, it's just fun just going into these places and turning the place upside down and just getting people to think, getting people to go, oh, Ben, yeah, that's right.
It's creating conversation.
It is.
It's creating the conversation. And like, I know with us, like we say, this particular talk, and all our groups coming forward, all our bloom rooms, this will be part of what will be put into the bloom rooms, so that it's continuing on education the whole way through.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
I don't think I've any other questions here. Let me see. I started writing them down as they come in. I think, let me see. Somebody's saying Ben's video on supermarket Alstroe prices was so interesting to watch. So I think it's following you over on Instagram. Instagram is really interesting.
I did a little. I go into supermarkets on research missions, and I put it on my stories that we used to supply Sainsbury's, and I got a horrible phone call on Valentine's Day 2020 from a lady, which isn't unusual. Ben, you got me Alstroemeria again. I wanted red roses. No one's getting red roses from me, you know. I got a horrible phone call from Sainsbury's, a lady, in 2020 Valentine's Day, and she said, Ben, we don't want your flowers anymore because we can get them 4p cheaper a bunch from Colombia. And at the time we were selling, Sainsbury's was selling the flowers Alstroemeria for £2.50, and now they sell them for £4. So, you know, they just save a bit of money, charge a bit more money, make a bigger margin. So every year when the profit sheet comes around, the spreadsheet, they can say, oh, we've made more money this year. I mean, it's penny pinching, it's money making, and they don't care about farmers and growers, and it's all a load of old greenwashing and stuff. And you'll get that in Waitrose. Waitrose, their packaging on Alstroemeria says, grown by our expert growers. Well, where are they? Freddie's Flowers, Wild and Bloom, direct from the grower. Direct from Kenya via Direct Holland, via Great Yarmouth, via a warehouse, via a machine that puts it in the letterbox via a postman or whatever. I mean, there's so much greenwashing and stuff. So I'm going to do a proper post about product placement and labeling, because it's so sketchy. You guys, the florists and the public, have got no educated decision when it comes to making a purchase, you know?
Yeah. Somebody is saying, is there a minimum order amount?
Yes, just 15 bunches, because it costs me £10 to get it from here to any florist shop in England, Wales and Scotland. So it needs to be a minimum order of 15 bunches. That can be a combination of premium and posy. It's picked, packed, and it's with you the next day. Nice and easy.
Super, that's excellent. And on that note, as when you were talking about Bloom and Wild and all of those relay florists, what I would say to people is that you're watching it today, we're coming up to Valentine's Day. If you see your flower shop, your local flower shop, or your local florist advertising, please share their posts, because they're being wiped out by these big
funky pigeon, moon pig, all this rubbish we see on
whatever
TV.
ads. And like, you click on flower shop in Rialto and a relay service will come up for us, and it's not the flower shop in Rialto. So please, 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 I would ask it for Valentine's Day, for Mother's, for all the time, but particularly at these times, is to share your local florist post on your social media. Also, it's a great hint to the other half. That's where you want your flowers from.
Exactly. You want quality, and that's what the British Flowers Rock thing's all about. It's about getting the public to support their local florist, urge that florist to buy British, and then it's a whole nice little community, because the member of the public is going to their local florist, and the local florist goes, oh, our Alstroemeria, they're from Ben. Oh, I saw Ben give a talk. Oh, look, you can follow him on social media. Look, this is how he grows them sustainably and all that. A supermarket is never gonna know who Ben is. They don't even spell Alstroemeria right.
And you know, and you know what, Ben, as well, because you put so much into it, people will look and want to buy your Alstroemeria.
Yeah, it's all about traceability. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Exactly. And you know what? Like, it's a bit like the like trust factor as well. They like you, they trust what you're saying, they know what you're saying, that we can see how passionate you are for your flowers, for your business, for British flowers. And that comes across then when people go and they're buying something. I know when I'm going now and I'm looking, I will be a little bit more careful about, be it my vegetables or whatever, because you have made us aware of that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It just needs, like in the UK, you've got like Irish Flower Week, you said. Well, we have British Flower Week. It's like been over 10 years. So every year for the last 10 years, we've had British Flowers Week or British Flower Week. But it's only for 1 week only. It's in the middle of summer when everyone's on holiday and wants ice creams and go to the beach. The message is so strong that I bang on about it every second of every day. It's like Jamie and Jimmy. They don't just go down Southend Pier once a week. When they have that series, it's on every week for a number of weeks, and they bugger off to wherever, to a bean grower or a strawberry grower or whatever. They gallivant around and educate people. And one week is not good enough. It's like bring your dog to work day, or Star Wars Day on May the 4th. It just puts it into that bracket of, can they be asked, is it really, it needs to be something that we talk about. And that's why I talk about it daily, because there's growers like me that are growing all year round, not just for 1 week in the summer, Well,
Ben, I really do feel you are going to change it. It might be slow, but you are definitely, like, whatever number of people we've had watching and that will continue on to watch this video on the replay, and anyone that is watching on the replay, you're very welcome. Please go over and follow Ben over on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube and you're watching, again, over to Facebook and Instagram and follow Ben over there, because he's constantly giving lots of tips, lots of advice, annoying, but it's also, it's keeping us aware. It's keeping us aware all the time, and also to education. So, like, for you as a florist, you now have the answers. You can say, oh, but like, the local grown flowers, they use pests to kill the pests rather than pesticides to kill the pests, So it's just having that education means so much. Ben, we've absolutely loved having you. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration, and you're just so passionate about it all. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody for tuning in, and make sure you're looking at where you're buying your flowers in future. Don't forget to share for Valentine's Day, everybody, all the local florists local to you, and give them that extra push now coming up to these busy seasons. Thanks very much. And I see Celine, just last post. Celine is our resident, always has, and she has tagged you in all the comments. She's tagged Crossland Nursery. She's tagged your Instagram. She's tagged your Facebook, your Twitter. She has them all there. Thank you, Celine, for that. Wow. And Ben, you can go back over into the Flowery Fun group at any time and answer any questions. Guys, thanks so much. And we will talk to you all soon.
Bye. Bye.